think a casual chat would be a good idea. The last time we spoke for 2 hours
Ara-
about the unrest in South Africa.
yeah.
Um, things seem to have calmed down now, but I mean,
You know, when I edit that, I have to
on the
listen to the
surface,
whole thing. Like I have to listen. I have to sit for 2 hours and
Congratulations.
edit that, and it's funny. It's
Nobody
entertaining.
nobody cares though.
We on 220 listens now, I think.
Are we doing an introduction now? What's the
Oh,
choice
that
of
was
sorry.
my segue. But Lee,
Okay. Oh, sorry,
let me
sorry,
try that
sorry, sorry. I
again.
didn't know. Okay, let's. Okay, and
Okay. Yeah. So hopefully we can just do a casual chat today because I know the last time we spoke for 2 hours about the unrest in South Africa, which I think needed 2 hours because there was a lot to cover. And right now there's some stuff happening on the political front as well, but we thought we'd do a bit less, a bit of a less political chat this week. Yeah, I think Lee wanted to chat about the gig economy, about online work, productivity. I know I've made a confession to the guys before that I have a secret YouTube list where I just watch productivity YouTubers, despite my constant need to express my desire to not work. I'm constantly following the self-help gurus and productivity porn online. So I mean, it's difficult though.
yeah, I, when I watch these things, I always my context is always home, like South Africa, South African youth, and I always think of how those videos, how does that relate to the obstacles, the challenges, and all the things that come with being black youth in South Africa. And some of these things are just so far and separate or separated from um, w- what black youth are able, not able, or given access to in order to get this type of thing going. And I think that's the problem. Like um, with the gig economy and with creator economy, it relies on access to not only data and internet, but also gear like hardware. Like us creating this now is privilege. We needed. You don't need mics, but like you can get mics, you can get cameras, you need a laptop, you need internet, you need a Zoom account. There's all these things. So to go. Like I will never say, oh, you can just go and do this and create something, because there are serious challenges that I think when people put out these pieces of content on advice for the gig economy and the creator economy, they don't understand their privilege, or they don't understand the obstacles that most young people face in South Africa. And I just wanted to touch on that, and also like this idea of work. Um, maybe Aiden, you can speak about your disillusion, or just like why do you say um, you don't want to work anymore? But I think it's not just like I don't want to work, I want to be lazy. Like there's something behind that that
Yeah.
I think is menacing the world of work.
Can I
Okay, so
just say, like,
yeah, go for it.
like to give people context for what, like, for those who
Yeah,
don't know
yeah,
what the gig economy is referring to, or like what we're referring to when we speak about the gig
yeah,
economy. It's it's I think most broadly definable by by websites like Fiverr or Upwork, where you post your skills online, your basically your portfolio online, and people hire you for a job. So someone will hire you for like a logo design job, or a can you edit this piece of writing for me, or can there's like musician, like every basically anybody who has the capacity to create mostly on an individual basis uh, can post their skills online like that.
I think in the
And so
States you guys have Task Rabbit,
we
where
have
like
toss yeah,
you can get people to like stand in a queue for you.
yeah,
You get people
basically.
to go do stuff for you. That's
Yeah,
also another
it's
form. It's not like so
oh
much
yeah, that's
creative, but it's
true.
like you let me use my body basically
Yeah,
to go
yeah,
and pick up your laundry or to,
yeah.
you know,
I mean,
that's
And
that's
then
also
another
the
and
one.
then
work. It's
and then the other side of the like what Aiden introduced is the productivity stuff, and I think he can speak more about that, like productivity work and all of that. Um, but yeah, I just wanted to give the context for like what broadly what we mean when we refer to gig economy, and then I like just to give my own like analysis opinion on like how I feel about gig economy is that I think it's like a dangerous. Honestly, I feel like it's a dangerous precedent to. Uh, Leo, you checking your underbeard here, but
No,
taking his
always
pulse, perhaps. Like
checking my
something
pulse for gig
I
economy.
I feel
Yeah,
like I
it is
feel like
dangerous.
I feel like it's a like a dangerous standard to set because it becomes about like uh it becomes more and more individualized and less possibility of doing things like forming unions or because you're not
Yeah,
contracted on a
you're
permanent
not
basis.
protected.
You're not your labor is not protected, so you're exposed to labor exploitation more. So all of these things are the things I want to talk about in addition to what Leo already brought up in terms of like access to data, internet, and all of those things, but also hardware and software.
Mm.
Aiden, I don't know if you wanna
Yeah, no, I just also wanted
hit
to
us
just
with
riff
that
off that
productivity.
actually. Before we get there, I just want to, I think it's very important what you just said, Wolf. I think firstly, there there is a difference between the gig economy and the creator economy. Like I think one thing that often happens with the kind of the language of the gig economy is that it also excludes so many people who are in the gig economy but in more precarious gigs, so to speak. So for example, like um, Uber drivers, like delivery people
Mm.
for like Uber Eats
Mm.
and things like this. These are precarious, like people earn 10 rand a delivery. Like 10 rand, I don't know what that equivalent is in dollars, Fulton, but like 10 rand is nothing to like drive around for. Like,
But
Are you
so
serious? So like the Mr.
yeah,
D, take a lot,
they
guys.
earn
It's
like
like
750 to 10 rand. That's at least what you can see on the delivery thing,
what?
which is why, which is I guess why there's a tip function because even the delivery partner, like Uber or whatever, they know that these people cannot. Like, just think about it one trip, right? You've got to go to the restaurant, pick up the thing, then drive to someone's house. If they live in an apartment complex, a lot of people don't even bother going down to the gate or to the door, whatever, to fetch it. They insist that these delivery people have to go through, sign in, and then count it's another 20 minutes, 30 minutes of the time. In an hour, they've done one trip.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying? Now you add on top of that the lockdown regulations, where there's a curfew till 10 p.m., right? That's like half of your income, basically. And a lot of these guys are on um, on all the different apps, so to speak. They're on Uber
Yeah,
Eats, they're
yeah.
on
yeah,
Insta Delivery, because they've got a kind of what's the word overlap there. But that's a precarious kind of gig economy. Fiverr and these kinds of freelance work, that's also another kind, but I think it's also important to recognize the precarity of some folk on that in the gig economy.
yes.
Um, and I
So
think like I just also want to add just like I think the thing about the gig economy it's just a continuation of the atomization or like the atomization of work, the atomization of the worker. And some people will argue
unpack
that
what you
started
mean.
with
Unpack what
like
you mean by
like like
atomization. Like make it clear to people who are
like an
hearing this the first time.
atomization basically meaning atom meaning the smallest part. They're kind of
Yeah,
breaking down something into its smallest constituent part.
yeah,
So the factory or the factory floor, so to speak, the production line introduced a certain atomization of tasks, right? There was one person who screwed in the thing, there was another person who put on this, and so on and so forth. But it all happened within the factory, right? So, like, people would be able to speak to each other across the factory floor,
Mm.
right? And that's kind of where like unions have a particular place in the
Mm.
factory with the factory floor. Like you could speak to your co-worker over there and you could organize, right? Like you could join a union and you all worked in a factory that, for example, produced cars or worked with
But
metal
you had
or
break
whatever.
time and you gathered,
You had
you
break
know?
time, and you can like it's a bit. It also invites a certain kind of political organizing, right?
Yeah.
But now with the atomization of work, which some argue started with Reagan and Thatcher, and like the attack on the unions there, the reassertion of like individualism through neoliberalism, whatever. We're not going to get into that today,
Hey,
um,
but I
but I
feel
think
like we're
that's
already there, my bro.
we're there. But I mean, that is like what like so so like the gig economy is the ultimate atomization of the work because the worker does one thing, but now can do multiple different things that are not related. So there's no common ground to like you as someone on Fiverr, I am working for myself. I have no incentive to organize with my co-freelancer, co-freelancer. Like even that term is a bit weird to say.
Yeah, because you not only
Co-freelancer.
did you separated from your place of work, because you don't work at Uber, you don't work at Take a Lot, you work for them on your own capacity. Not only are you separated from your place of work, but you're separated from your colleagues, so to speak. So there's no rallying around other people's needs, wants, what like the unionization like came together by understanding that like you're part of a whole, you're part of something bigger.
Yeah,
You're a
I think that's
workforce
definitely true.
fighting for each other's rights, but to they've been dislocated and detached
Okay,
from
so
that.
wait. Sorry. So I just to talk about the example of Uber and stuff, and in the States we have Lyft as well.
Mm.
Uh, so because there's like a proposition in law, I think it's Proposition 22 or something. They are these companies are allowed to call their drivers, their gig workers.
Employees.
Uh, they don't call them employees or they call them independent contractors, and they can classify them as independent contractors, and therefore Uber, Lyft, DoorDash, Seamless, all of these companies have no
Yep.
legal responsibility to take care of their employees. So these
It's
people are,
subcontracting. It's like a subcontractor.
yeah, and I
Exactly.
think like honestly I think they following the model of like outsource work,
Yep.
like
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
labor brokerage, where a middleman comes in and negotiates the terms, and then employs someone on an independent contractor basis. That is incredibly incredibly
Just
frustrating and
dangerous. It's
also dangerous, and places all of these people in precarious positions. The other thing is there is there's a group of drivers who have decided to form their own worker-owned
I saw
cooperative
that lift.
company,
Yeah.
uh, which is basically like their version of Uber and Lyft and all of these things. And I would be interested to see how that is going to develop down the line, because the premise, and this is something that we are speaking about in our group of friends in relation to our fundraising for our farm project, uh, and like models that we want to follow. So it might be interesting for us to look
Mm.
at as
The
well.
drivers
Is
are owners. Yeah.
all the drivers will be owners, but also all of the drivers will have an equitable share
Yeah.
in the stocks of the company. So it will be it will be a company that is trading. I think, as far as I know, it will be a company that eventually will be trading on the public market, but only available to it's. I'm not sure how the legal structure will work, but like the only the people who own, the only people who own shares will be the people who also work for the company in various capacities: accountants, marketers, drivers, whatever the case may be. And honestly, I think that's like a fucking interesting development uh, in that labor field. On it, like when we said we're gonna talk about this today, I was only really thinking about like online, um,
Yeah. No.
like online like work
Gigs.
gigs and stuff like that, like graphic designers and stuff. But I think like the real people we should the real companies we should be thinking about and analyzing and stuff like that are these like dominant companies who employ people as contract workers, because I think that's just so fucking dangerous. And then like, last thing I'll say for now on this is that everybody who is a driver that I've encountered has been an immigrant. And so there's a precarity there as well. There's like an added layer of precarity. So in the States, you have to have like, I don't know if there's like a way to bypass like labor laws to work in the gig economy in the States. But it is an easy way to get into work. It used to be that you would, like, a lot of folks would get into driving taxis in places
Yep.
like New York, for instance. But now it has become this kind of independent contractor business, and I think it's so dangerous because if you can't unionize, you can't protect yourself. You have no numbers behind you, so you're an individual person up against a corporation at every turn, and and I just feel like 9 times out of 10 you're gonna like lose. Like 99% of the time you're gonna lose in that instance. Not to
Yeah.
sound like fucking depressing or anything, but like I feel like that's the reality of the situation.
But I also
Yeah,
think
that.
like okay, so imagine it's like the tyranny of choice as well on top of that. Like, right? So
Mhm.
say now you're a freelancer and you're doing Uber and you're doing something else. Say now you're working like 3 or 4 jobs inside the gig economy, and one of those jobs decides to unionize. Do you go with that? Like, like you know what I'm saying? Like, oh yeah, I'm a photographer and I'm a Uber driver, and I've got a photographers union that's kind of starting up. Do I join the photographers union because I actually identify more with being an Uber driver? Like, do you understand? Like that is also like, would it? I can imagine a union of
I think it'll be a
freelancers.
start. I think it'll be a start, and then like that could filter or spill over into those other gigs as well. But
The other
it
thing
needs to
is
start.
like, yeah, just want to say last thing. The other thing is that like unions provide bargaining power against an
Yes,
employee, an
yes.
employer, right? Um, and with a freelancer, like you are your own employer, which is another theme I think that like goes into the whole work thing, the whole idea of productivity and stuff. Like you are your own, like you are the CEO of your life, kind of stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like you are
Your
responsible
life is
for,
a business,
like if you don't press play on that like motivational video on YouTube, you're not going to the gym today. Like, and that's
Mm.
your fault. You know what I'm saying? That's a crude example, but I think like it's like it all overlaps in some way.
I wanted to say like my what I wanted to bring across in this topic is about the nature of work in the gig economy and how it is not sustainable. Yes, you are young, you can do these things. It is literally no work, no pay. So you look at your quality of life. So now you're doing 3 gigs, right? If you are sick, if you get injured and you can't work for a week or two, there's no cover, right? There's no cover for that. So you're looking at quality of life. Like everything is driven to work. There's no recreation. There's no time for quality of life in the sense of you're not protected. You can't also climb the ranks of Uber if you like. If I can become a manager or a fleet manager or something like that, yes, you can probably work yourself up to get more cars and get bring more people in to drive, and you're running maybe 5 6 cars, and I've seen people who do that. They bring families, and it's a lot of immigrant families as well. um, and that is a start, yes, but it's not sustainable. Like they get phased out, there's no pension, there's no, everything is left up to yourself. So that's what Aiden is saying, is like you subcontractor, we are we are asking you to do this job, and here's the money. What you must do with that is now sort out your medical aid. You must pay for your own pension plan. But is it enough? No, it's not. So you are so exposed when you're doing these gigs, and it becomes it doesn't become sustainable over a long period. It's not career. Like you cannot build on that um, to the point where you feel secure in your job. And I think there are some, I would like to think, or I suspect they push this whole thing of gig economy because it benefits the companies more than it does the employees, because they're not actually responsible for their contractors' actions or contractors' um, well-being. Like I'm gonna pay you, and that's it. I don't have any responsibility. And I think in South Africa we also need to be very careful with this self-employed entrepreneur rhetoric that goes like
Yeah.
people in order to do, I think people need, young people need security, they need good paying jobs, they need benefits, they need
Yeah.
unions to speak on their behalf. um, and there's something to be said about self-employment, especially in South Africa, is difficult. In the first quarter of 2021, 1,000 businesses, small businesses, closed down just in 4 months,
Jesus
right?
Christ, Lee.
So what now? Like,
Damn.
but on the other hand, university is also a fallacy. Like, just come study, like, Aiden, you can speak about this, and kids don't know what they want to study. I want to do this. My mother said I must have a degree. So much money gets pumped into that as well. Like, of course, the thing of, oh, university is a waste of time. No, it's not. If you're studying to become an engineer or a doctor or a lawyer or a nurse, like, you can't YouTube that. like you can't, like, I'm gonna YouTube a pilot course. Yeah, I think I'm gonna apply. Like,
Play
no,
Flight Simulator.
but at the same time, it's not this. We don't. It's not this silver bullet to poverty. Like, I got my degree, I got my BA, and now what? You know, there's no transition. There's no plan for our youth to kind of get into the ranks. Um, and we need to be real. I think it's time we need to be real with our youth as well as ourselves. That, security is what they seek, and stability, I think, and being protected and being looked after as an employee. And yeah, I think,
I think
yeah,
there was
jobs, man.
yeah, I completely agree with you. I think we must ask the question about why it is that we work so
Mm,
much. Okay, let me clarify now. I think now's a good
yeah,
time for me to
there we go.
clarify
There we go.
because I'm always saying all these things
The
that I
world
don't
of
want to
work.
work, and um, it's not that I'm seeking a life of leisure or that I want to be in this class of people that don't do any kind of work at all, don't produce anything. I think it's more like figuring out how to deal with the tyranny of work as life. I think that's the thing that I'm struggling with in myself. And maybe it is, I guess, like you guys know, like we live in a world where like careerism is a thing. You study and you go work, and
And
you
you become a
like
Dr. Erasmus, and that's
what's
you
the
now. That's your
their pro and
identity now.
type of like that's your whole life. And what about pivoting? What about building off of the skills that you have? What about like having a primary or having a school system that teaches both vocational and like other types of skills, right? Exposes kids to as many things as possible, and then have a system or a society that um, brings people in on those skills instead of like this idea of, oh, I've got a passion for law or whatever, or you know what I'm saying. Like, I don't know if I'm making sense, but another system is needed to think about that. Hello, hi.
I love that you're. This is the first time Miles has made an appearance on our podcast, and we are very proud to welcome him into the fold. Look
My
here.
name is Big Belly. Yeah.
Wait, I wanted to
But
say. I don't know. Like, oh, sorry. Go for it, Lee.
no, I think that also young people, youth, are. I feel like they wanna, like, I don't know what I want to say, but I think it's like young people also feel disillusioned with the world of work, in the sense of most things are geared to how much does it earn. And I don't blame them because that's the whole narrative. That's the whole thing. Like when you look at career day, you look at these certain universities, right? They'll take the kids to certain universities and take them to certain faculties. And from a young age, you're already pushed into this thing of you need to go work, you need to go turn the cogs of the system. And at the same time, I feel like yes, that ideology is a bit of a luxury in a place like South Africa where people just need work. They just need jobs, just like a job. Just let me able to support myself. But at the same time, that mustn't also be taken advantage of through this whole gig economy of like, oh well, he's an Uber driver, so at least he's working, you know. But it's the quality of the work. We mustn't just create jobs for job's sake, but the quality. Like if you cannot employ someone and pay them properly with the benefits, with all that thing, then just don't employ anyone. Like that's my philosophy. Like
That's how
I
I
just
feel as well.
I feel like if you can't employ someone, then just don't. But
Like
there's if
that.
you're a
I
I
mean,
company, if
completely
you're
agree. Yeah.
that's a lot of the argument going around in the states now about workers in like fast food industry. So like lots of people are
they got a
literally
lot of benefits now,
lots
right?
of people are walking out of jobs, and
Yeah.
they're like, well, you know, if you can't pay me a living wage, a wage, and
Yes.
something that covers, you know, all the necessities of my life, then you shouldn't be employing me, and therefore we all going to walk out of this job right now. And now all of a sudden McDonald's has come up with money, like out of the
Dude,
blue, out
came
of
out
the
of
blue.
nowhere.
You know, Burger
Benefits,
King
dude.
has come out with money and benefits and all of this stuff, and it's like
They had it all along.
it's absolute trash. But the other thing I want, like, this goes back to I think our episode on youth unemployment, and something that
Mm.
Aiden brings up often is the universal basic income or basic income grant in South Africa, that's being discussed at the moment. Um, and I feel like if we are going to take stuff like gig economies in a serious way, there has to be a universal basic income, first of all. And then the whole structure of gig economy has to be overhauled, where there's standardized pricing for services. Because what's happening on websites like Fiverr is disturbing because people are like undercutting themselves and undercutting their work, worth, and labor because someone else is charging, say someone else is charging $35 for a t-shirt design. Oh fuck, I'm not going to be able to like compete with that person. Let me undercut them by $5, and then the next person can let me undercut them by $2. And the price, you can see, you can go on these websites and see how people undervalue their work. I was talking to a bra about a t-shirt design. I paid him, I gave him a tip and everything, and he was in he is in India. He was working at like 3 a.m. on this design for me. And he was like going back and forth with me on this. I was, it was evening time. My side, it was like 3, 4 in the morning for him. I don't know his life story. I don't know what he does with his day, but that isn't a life. Like you can't be, I'm sure that person works a whole other job during the day, and this is the freelance side gig that is going on right now. But the freelance side gig is taking you to 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning, and you have to undercut your own labor value in the process. And that's what the gig economy does. It like cuts you down all the time, so you have to work more, work longer hours, overlap all the websites that you're on, all the apps that you're on. Every driver I've had works for Lyft, DoorDash, and Uber at the same time, and just switching between the three apps with two phones, one for navigation and phone calls, the other one for like switching through the apps. Like while we, you know, when there's a stop on the road at the red light or something like that.
I think
And I just think like that again, I'm gonna be shitting on capitalism in every episode in some way, shape, or form, and this is that moment. But that mentality, like that way of forcing people into working longer hours for less money and less benefits, is exactly what capitalism does, it is exactly what capitalism is born out of. It is born out of slavery, exploitation, and colonialism, and also the exploitation of the working class in England. If white people want to get upset that I'm naming slavery, the work, white working class in England were fucking exploited at the beginning of capitalism as well. If you think about like kids as chimney sweeps and stuff like that, you don't think about that as a capitalist system, but that is entirely what it is. And so I just think like we are in a fucking mess with this gig economy shit because these companies can push through like law, clauses like Proposition 22,
Legals.
which is like, oh no, you're not an employee, you're an independent contractor, and therefore you have ultimate freedom in your labor practices. Fuck you, dude.
An
Sorry for my
independent
rant.
contractor, you're a partner.
Partner.
You're a
Right,
driver partner.
right.
I
Like
think
that's it.
I just want to touch on something there, like the way I think a lot of creatives, and I've spoken to some because I've gotten work done on Fiverr for video editing and social media stuff and various things. There is this push to rather do that than work for an agency because there it's dude it's some agencies push you, and it's deadline on deadline on deadline on weekends. Your phone needs to be on because it's it's fourth quarter now, it's December, we need to push out all the ads, we need, you're always on call. And I think a lot of those creatives go from agency work to gig work because at least now they have agency and they can choose what to do, and they have a bit of space, like, no, I'm not taking any gigs. That being said, um, they do say, okay, for this next 2 weeks, I'm going to push so that at least 1 week a month I can have off. But at the same time, it's not sustainable in the long run because people shouldn't be working job for job, because they could be work today and no work tomorrow. Um, and that's the you're basically running your own business. You're basically entrepreneur, not entrepreneur. You're basically self-employed, and you, if there's work, you get paid. If you don't work, you don't get paid, unless you want to automate that to like start giving classes online. And the ones that, what I'm saying is that there's so much access and resources that goes into setting that up. So I know freelancers who edit videos, and then they will also have a Skillshare account that you can sign up for and learn how to edit videos the way he does. So he's basically making money while he doesn't work. He's like, he's still using his means of production to earn money for when he doesn't want to work. But
Okay, call
that
Marx.
takes that takes long to set up. And I just think for the reality of the youth in South Africa, it's just like, it's so far. I watch these videos, I'm like, I wish we had like free internet in South Africa. I wish we had like little internet hubs in each of these like informal settlements or these impoverished areas where kids can just go after school, fiddle. Like, I'm not the most technically advanced person, but what I have is time, and I can sit on YouTube and figure something out. And like, I've taught myself skills that I have now turned into employable stuff. Like, I'm earning from those skills, like,
I
so
Okay,
something as
so
simple as that,
yeah.
like,
I also
can
think like
I want to push
it's
that. I want to push that further, though. Like, I want to push that further. I know Adrian has something to say, but I really want to push that idea of like learning skills as something that can then subsequently earn you money. I feel like learning skills should be for the sake of learning skills. Like, we need artists, we need plumbers, we need all of these things, and I feel like a universal basic income is the route to creating
yes,
an
yes,
environment where people are able to learn skills as they go on throughout their life,
yes,
without the because like once your income is secure,
yes,
so many like once your livelihood is secured, so many other things become available to you. Like
yep,
it doesn't become a case of, oh shit, I have to like work 12 hours and then go home and then like go do some graphic design work as well. so that I can survive. It becomes I'm earning a universal basic income. I'm taking that universal basic income, putting that money back into the economy, still doing a job that that I like to do, or that I think is important to my community and to my nation. And then so yeah, so I just feel like there's so much that has to this we need to be able to tell people, look here, your life is your life, and you will be secure in terms of the most basic things:
regardless.
electricity, water, internet, healthcare, education, and food. Because we are charged with your care, we will therefore actually care for you. And people always, the question always becomes then like, oh, where are you going to get the money for this universal basic income? Or like, where are you going to get the money for this and that? But like,
There's money, bro.
in South Africa, but
There's money, bro.
so much money goes wasted
There's money, bro.
because we're playing games with like private public partnerships with like uh with the whole Mediclinic franchise, so they have like complete, like leeway to do whatever they want. News 24 is a mega corporation in South Africa who runs all the biggest selling news publications. I mean, sorry, Naspers, not News 24. News 24 is part
I
of
mean,
Naspers.
Naspers.
Naspers. And so
Yeah, Naspers.
what I'm saying is that, like, and also we're not taxing the wealthy in our country. We are not. There's no increment. There's incremental tax in theory. Nobody's getting charged for that shit. Like
And
SARS
we
is the
still don't know
best.
how to use the tax money. So it's like
Exactly.
it's
Well,
like
we do.
that.
No, we do know how to use the tax money, but and I say we, by we, I really just
Oh yeah,
mean the very elite, like people who can make decisions on these things, are squandering funds for.
yeah.
We spoke about the Ingonyama Trust yesterday. It's like, wow, they have 2.8 million hectares of land. I don't want to piss off the Zulu folk who are listening to us, but that,
But they're
like,
charging
you
rent,
have
which they're not
2.8
supposed to.
million hectares of land. You're not supposed to charge any of the landowners rent because they're true landowners in legal terms in South Africa, but you're still charging them rent, and now you have to go and pay them back. And the government is going to have to step in and like give the Ingonyama Trust money for that, because that's what has happened oftentimes. And so, like, we really need to consider what a waste of time this question of where's the money going to come from is, because
Yeah.
we
That's
know
not the
where the
question.
money is going to come from. We know, but we need to like be we need to
And
have
the
the
money's
capacity
there.
to go there. And now people are going to be like, the DA is going to do this, they're going to say, oh my good Lord Jesus
I
Christ,
also think our value as people
sorry.
and citizens is attached to our ability to work. That is the problem.
And I
Our
think
val-
that's
Yeah, I think
and I
it's
think
our
that's where
definitely. I
Aiden
yeah.
think that's where
Why
I think
can't
Aiden's
I
that's
just
definitely a
be?
problem. I
Why
feel
can't I
like there
just
should
be
be.
a good father to my kids? Why can't I just be a good role model in my community? Why don't I get subsidized for that? All there's so many single mothers that open their homes to kids to just, hey, come sleep here 2 days. Here's a pot of a plate of food, but you can have a pot as well. But like they are these talismans in communities of need that go they do work that goes unnoticed, dude. Like such pivotal social work, and they have to live basically month to month, even
yeah,
week to week. And like that is such a important role in South African black poor communities. um and that's not like the government looks at that and is like, oh well. And that's how people get by. When people ask me, how do people get by on 1,800 rand pension a month, they have to pull together. They have to. Like,
yeah.
you can't, there's no individualism in those communities. You
Make
can't
it
Right.
survive.
work.
You
Right.
make it work.
You literally cannot survive on your own. I do want to like pull Aiden in here because
Yeah.
that like work is
Yes.
life, that work is life thing that you said at the beginning just now is something that he has brought up multiple times, that something that we also trying to contend within this group. And I think maybe it like ties into the productivity question as well. But I'm so concerned, honestly, Aiden, I'm concerned about the idea of like work is life and your career is your identity. And
Yeah,
because I
I think
think
it's scary.
yeah.
I think it's so scary. I think like and I think it's definitely tied to this idea of entrepreneurship of the self, the idea of the individual, the idea of careerism, the idea of the rat race, all those type of things. But we see it lately more and more. We see this work like you are your work, like yourself is that which you must work to become something in life. Like we see that play out. We see the effects of that play out now with like burnout and stuff. We see it um, with the emphasis on self care everywhere. We see it with the emphasis on like work life balance. We see it with the way in which mindfulness meditation has now suddenly entered into the. I heard an interesting story the other day. Um, it was actually on one of my favorite podcasts, Rev Left um, radio, and they were talking to this guy who was like a Zen Buddhist, but he also does like ecological activist work. Anyway, but he was saying that a company hired a consultant to come and teach all his workers like mindfulness meditation. And then I think within like 2 weeks or something, all the workers quit because they realized like the job was so stressful, like that they needed mindfulness meditation to deal with it. So like the irony of that is insane.
uh,
And I do think the work is life thing is there, and I also don't think that we like the media that's out there, and this is where I kind of want to pivot to talking about the productivity content industry, the self-help content industry, and the toxicity of that. Like, we need to be thinking about healthier ways of managing like the things that are coming at us, like in this environment that we find ourselves in, where work is life. Do you know what I mean? Like, how do you like? Sometimes you don't have a choice. Sometimes you are in that rat race and you are on the hamster wheel, and you know what I'm saying, and you are grinding, and you need to do that. Do you know what I'm saying? To put food on the table, whatever. But at the same time, like you are human,
Yeah.
and your body is a temple, as they say. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Your
dude, it's one
body
of the
is a
reasons.
wonderland.
It's one of
how
the
do you look
reasons.
after yourself? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like you
Yeah.
guys know, like
Exactly.
I had a severe case of burnout where I ended up in the hospital, and and then I had to make serious choices about like how do I put up boundaries, and that was a learning process, and that's not stuff you get from. I mean, the reason why I'm so into productivity YouTube stuff and like these type of things is probably because I've been searching for a means to deal with the stress of like or the impossibility of a work-life balance. Do you know what I'm saying? Like there's this idea, oh, you can definitely work, but just have a morning routine. Yeah, it's like maybe I don't want to like take cold showers.
Sleep productivity.
Like yeah, like there was a video the other day. I was telling you about it, Lee. Like there was a video the
Uh,
other day where the guy was like, "How to sleep more productively." What if I don't want to productively sleep?
That's
What if I want
insane.
to sleep? Like
That's no, that's
you know?
ridiculous. What I wanted to say in relation to this productivity question is something that has disturbed me for a long time about companies like Google. Actually, in Cape Town, there's the old Mutual headquarters that does similar stuff where they have like sleep pods and nap rooms, and like everything is done they call it the campus. Everything is done on the campus, and all. So you see these major extreme capitalist corporations trying to invoke the language of like self-care,
no, work is life.
take
Work is
time.
life. That's what
but
they.
but that but exactly, work is life is the message that
You
they're
don't need to
pushing.
go home.
You don't need
Just
to
have a
go
nap.
home, just stay
Yes,
here,
free
sleep
food. Yes,
here,
dude,
like
free
do
food.
everything here. Like everybody wants access to you all the time. And then the other thing is that, yes, on the one hand it's about managing what is coming at you, but I think it's also for us to take a proactive role in overthrowing the conditions that cause these things to be thrown at us. So if we're going to ask ourselves seriously, what are the things that are causing these extreme demands of productivity from people all the time that impacts their psyche to the point where we are breaking down, where we developing like like substance abuse habits as ways of
Mm,
coping, where we're developing like eating habits as ways of coping, where we're developing deep anxiety, crippling anxiety that Aiden knows all too well, that Lee knows all three of us,
mm.
and Andriek, who's not on the call today, all four of us, in our own ways, have ended up with doctors in hospitals because the demands of productivity are so extreme for people who want to live any kind of life. And what perturbs me is when these major corporations try and incorporate all of this language and practices of mindfulness and rest and naps into their work environment, where I think that is just going to I feel like that's a form of gaslighting. Like you're taking the abusive conditions and bringing into the abusive conditions any kind of possible way of uh, moving out of that. So, like meditation is brought
You have
into
to
the
you have to
workplace.
be part of it because it's
Sleep
part
and
of
naps
company
is brought
culture.
into the
That
workplace. Gyms is brought into the workplace. That is, bruh, these people are fucking, they're smart, but they're also
they smart.
insidious and
It's like
dangerous.
like you need to do team building and go do paintball because that's part of we're trying to build company culture. But what if that's not? What if I just want to do my work, do it as best as I can, and then go home? What if rock climbing for me is the best way to be in touch with myself? Right? Like, no, you must be part of this. And if you're not part of this happy culture in the company, then you're seen as not a team player. Like you want, but not only do you want my work, you want my person. It's like you're like, not only do you want, and then people are
Well,
like,
they
what's
want your entire identity. That's
yeah,
that's the issue. Like
they want
they want every single part of your existence to be incorporated into their business, corporation, whatever the case may be. It might sound like a callous way of saying it, but I truly
yeah,
think
but
that
that's also
that's the
part of
case.
internal marketing, and any big company will tell you that internal marketing is just. My brother will tell you that guy they do a lot to market internally. They do a lot. Like if he's at a function and he is drinking a certain beverage, then it's like, oh, so why? Oh, no, it's the best. Oh, I actually work there. Then that's coming from inside. Like if Walton works somewhere, right? And I see this brother's always happy. He's always doing fun things. Like, bro, do you
Brown
think I should work
University
there?
is trash.
And he's like, oh, dude, come work here. It's awesome. No one, people always say like that internal marketing, it goes big, but I don't see why people can't just work to gain the means to do what they love. And I think Aiden gets that, gets to say, he says that a lot when we chat about like why do I have to love my work? Why can't I just acquire the skill, able to do it to a point where I can earn a living and earn time and stability for me now to just go and do whatever I want to in my spare time. And I mean, I'm living that now basically. I have a job. I mean, it provides things. I'm not as passionate about it as I thought I'd be, but whatever I do besides that, that's my basic universal income. And I think that's what Walton is getting at, is like people need to not be pushed into spaces to now start earning a living, like start working to gain something. And if you have a universal basic income, that buffer kind of gives you that ability to now, let me go and explore, let me see what I like, let me see how far I can push this, let me dabble in this and dabble in that, and there you get something that you can find peace, use the word, in doing as a career, maybe, you know, but maybe not. It shouldn't,
Just
like,
something that brings fulfillment, like on
there we
a
go.
very basic level. I
On a
think,
very basic level.
Just
I think we all have things that we do, whether we do it for money or do it for free. There are things that bring us a certain sense of contentment and fulfillment. And I don't see why we shouldn't have a society that supports that kind of life.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Or that
And
kind of
yeah,
aspiration.
yeah. And I think, and honestly, like again, I feel like I'm a clock swinging back to a previous moment, but like this is honestly what I mean about when I talk about the politics of empathy, or like working towards a politics of empathy, is that this is part of that. It's not just an abstract idea that I'm playing around with that has no bearing in the real world, but it's about, well, how do we create the conditions for people to find like ease of life, peace of mind, and ease of life within the conditions that they are in, not in a way that is manipulated, just
Mm.
to say, like, here are the conditions for you to find your way to do the thing that you. I know so many black people who want to be farmers, but they have no access to land. They will never have access to land, and now they work. I know young people who are working in who. Well, I mean, I can't say now anymore, but this is like 5, 6 years ago. Young people working in Shoprite and Pick and Pay, who are young black people who are only there because they don't have the kinds of uh, necessary tools available to them to actually do what they want to do. And I'm coming back to this thing of farming, because like 70% of farms are owned by white people in South Africa,
Agricultural land mainly.
agricultural land, and
That is a
all and
food
all
security.
and all the like majority of the labor is black, but those people will never have access to the land itself. Like they will never actually be able to work the land that uh,
For themselves.
for themselves, but not only for themselves, like for their communities,
Mm.
which I think is the more which kind of comes to again comes to the politics of empathy situation, where it's like people are being forced to do things that doesn't really have any bearing on the social lives of the people that around them. I'm not saying every job has to be a social impact job, something that like affects
Yeah, yeah.
positively on the life of every person around you. But what I am saying is that if you have the capacity, like, to find some kind of ease of life and some kind of joy, I think the biggest, like, one of the biggest tricks capitalism has played on us is that you have to suffer to live.
Grind.
Like
Yeah,
you have to
definitely.
constantly suffer to live, and I really think we need to work away from that model of existence. That is not that's not how so many of these factory jobs that take 10 hours a day to work are doable in 6 hours. Like people But people have to sit it out and wait out the
Mm.
10 hours. Why? Because their time is bought for those
Spoke
10
about that. Yeah.
hours for those 10 hours that boss owns you. And I think this is the thing that just to bring it back to the beginning of the episode, but like this is the thing that bothers me about the gig economy, is that there's so much potential for something like this, where someone is an artist who can earn money off their art, but because of the conditions that Fiverr and Upwork and all of these things are setting, they have to undercut themselves and therefore work more hours and more jobs all the time to be able to make ends meet. And so therefore, and then all all the ease and joy is taken out of the equation, and it's just back to the suffer to live model. And I don't know, like I'm not saying this to like be,
Aren't we all doing it now? The three of
we,
us.
I guess so, bruh. I guess
We're
so.
suffering.
No,
we
But
in our
we want to
but what
support our, like,
exactly?
we want to support
I
our
think
families. We want to
We
support the
have a
people
dream to
around us.
chase as well. So like, it's
Anyway,
it's
sorry.
difficult, man. It's difficult. It's problematic. It's difficult. But these conversations are necessary. I feel like just the value of people needs to be seen beyond. Like that's why I can't hang out on LinkedIn. Like dude. Does
What
any
is
do you ever
LinkedIn even?
do you guys
What is
have
LinkedIn?
a LinkedIn account? It's
But
just
I
like
know
people are their
maybe
profession.
I
People
do. I don't know.
people become their identity is, but probably that's just how the platform works. You know what I mean? Like you punting your career. It's a lot of career posturing, qualification posturing, and it's a good place for employees to find candidates. But it's a version of yourself. You know, it's your work version, it's your career version. But and you're probably selling it like you selling that side of yourself. Nothing against the thing, but I think we change so much over time. Like your thesis has changed, like Aiden's whole outlook on work and career maybe has changed, and my shit changes every 5 years, you know. Um,
And that's human
but
nature.
that's
Like
but that's human nature. Like people,
we're not single subscribed beings,
you
bro.
know. So now
Um,
you're telling an 18-year-old he must go and study something to do for the next 40 years of his life, like or her life or their life. You know what I mean? Like there's no but a universal basic income, and I think that is the key. Is saying, okay, check here, after high school you get 2 years of this, you get a grant. Actually, it's not the universal basic income, it's on top of that. It's like a grant to figure out, go do community service, go, like it's a government sanctioned, go work in old age homes, prisons maybe, or go do community service, go, you know, just like go figure out what it is that you want to do. But there's also no rush to start earning, to commit to a career of sorts, because the shit's changing so fast, dude. There's careers that haven't even been invented that kids are going to be doing. um, and just to learn that stuff, like about yourself. It's not about content and curriculum as much as it is about yourself. Like Aiden had to learn how to cope with boundaries on the job. They don't teach you that. They didn't teach you like, oh, this is a boundary management when you're proficient. Like there's no course for that. Like those are the type of things that you learn about yourself. Like, oh, okay, I can't have a job like that because I don't do well with those deadlines and demands, or like things just need to be learned. But I think there's this rush to get people working to contribute to GDP, and that needs to be sold to them as quickly as possible. And there's no time, we don't feel like there's time for people to find themselves or feel like happiness. Like we don't want people to be happy, we want people to work, and we think that work will make them happy.
And I think to a certain degree, work does make you happy. You do certain kinds of work that's fulfilling.
Yeah, yeah, okay,
You know
yeah,
what I'm
yeah,
saying?
true.
Like then you, I mean, then it is happy. But when you, and I think this is a segue to talk about why I think UBIG, why universal basic income grant of some form is so important in a country like South Africa, is because it does give you room, gives you space to negotiate. It says here's a little bit extra every month that you don't necessarily need to kind of um, break your back to get. It'll cover, like we spoke about earlier, food, shelter, all the kind of basics. Um, but it does give you some room to say, okay, maybe I don't need to take that extra shift this week. I can spend time
Mm,
with my family. You know what I'm saying?
mm,
Or I can go and contribute to that
mm.
community project. Or I can, um, and there's all sorts of layers to this. I also just wanted to say, in addition to what Walton was saying about land, like, and I think this is another conversation we need to have, is, around the time of the Native Land Act in 1913, which is basically set up because before that, black folk could own land, and owning land gave you access to the franchise to vote in the Cape. And obviously, black people voting in the parliament was posed a serious threat. Um, and there is a link between that and an emerging kind of discourse around what do you teach what do you teach black people. So like native administration starts thinking about bantu education around the same time, right? So what do you teach people to be in life, right? What do you teach them to become in life,
mm,
right? Do you teach them to become more than just kind of implements of this of a state or capitalist like machinery, or do you teach them to just be that? You know what I'm saying? To just be labor. And I don't think there's I think it's very pertinent that the two things happen at the same time. Like I think there is
Mm.
like the like the divorcing of people's access to land and the particular kind of idea of what vocational training is, what education is, what intellectual development is. Like it's all happening at the same time. Um, and I think that yeah, I want to wrap up, but this is a really like
Yeah,
intense conversation.
I feel like we're
Um,
still in it though. So
yeah, I just
we
want to say
can,
one more
yeah.
thing as
Oh,
we close. I think like
go for it.
um, I agree with what you said. Like we need to be making proactive steps to change the status quo to a situation where we don't have to kind of chase a work-life balance. But I also think there should be ways in which, alongside that activity, there should also be means to teach people how um, to cope, to deal with some of the pressures, like that work life, especially like um, those who are like in the rat race, who don't see that burnout coming until it's ignited. Someone the other day was talking about how they at that point of ignition, and that's when they knew they had to slow down. And I was like, yo, like burnout literally means you're on fire, like you know what I'm saying,
Mm.
like you are like gonna burn out. And I think like we need to have that conversation at least on a level. Anyway,
Yeah. Wait, wait,
like
wait,
and
wait, 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 wait,
subscribe.
wait, wait,
Oh,
wait, 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 wait. I just want to say I really appreciate that, and I think you are 100% right. I also want to take this opportunity to plug our fundraising efforts as Jillian Custard. We also have a larger project that we are working on, loosely called Plasi. But it's a project that is tied to land and liberation of Black people in farming communities, especially in the Western Cape. That's where we're thinking of at the moment, and so we are busy raising funds to buy a piece of land. I'm gonna make and sell T-shirts. We'll run fundraisers online. We all have our own profiles, social media profiles, which we'll link. So if you are interested and committed in liberation projects for poor folk, for Black folk, for immigrant folk, anybody who's exposed and in danger and in a precarious position in South Africa, we are really serious about the work we are doing towards that right now. So, whether the fundraising works out or not, we're gonna get this land and we're gonna make it work for people. And so, yeah, support, like, and subscribe. I'm doing the outro now for Aiden because I hijacked the India.
thanks. We are not very good at
Uh,
it.
Very
like,
sneaky. I like it.
um,
Well, slick.
go follow us on Instagram and Twitter at JXC Podcast. Follow us on Facebook, Jillian Custard Podcast, and uh,
On
like
Instagram,
and
Jakes.
like
Yeah.
yeah, like and subscribe on YouTube. Also, please comment on YouTube. It's great to or anywhere where you can, because it's great for us to have interactions with people who are listening, and we've had some great conversations with folks so far already. So thank you to Lee and to Aiden for co-hosting this episode with me, and we love you all very much, and thank you for joining us. Peace.
Okay, now take a break.